Let me show you something. We've read this before in John's Gospel, chapter 5, verse 24. We've been going through the Gospel of John, and this is one of my favorite passages. And I just wanted to notice, in the light of what we're talking about, the death and resurrection of Jesus, and how that includes us. John chapter 5, verse 24. These are some important words of Jesus. In the light of everything I've just said to you, consider these words. Words of Jesus begins this way, John 5:24. Verily, verily. That means truly, truly. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Now, when he says it twice, what does it mean? See, if he would have just started talking, we would have said, well, take that to heart. But when he says verily, that means truly, then we perk up our ears. But if he says verily, verily, he's got us twice. Now, listen, listen is what he's saying. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. In other words, mark it down. This is truth. Take it to the bank. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word and believeth on him that sent me hath everlasting life. Now notice what he asks his listeners to do. He that heareth my word and believeth. In other words, you hear the gospel, you hear this message, and you say, I believe it, it's good enough for me. I believe it, I accept it. Just like with the communion elements. See, if I would have got up here and talked about the communion, and the bread is this, and the wine is this, and you would have just sat there and nod your head, that's not good enough. You have to take it and receive it. Yes. I tell this sometimes as a kind of a graphic illustration. If you were riding on a cruise liner, a cruise ship, like the, what do they call it, the Carnival cruises, where they go and cruise the Caribbean or something, if you were on one of those cruise ships, and every now and then you see this in the news, somebody fell overboard or somebody was lost and they don't know what happened to them. Let's just say, unfortunately, you fell off the ship and nobody noticed and they've sailed off over the horizon. Now you're in trouble, right? Would you agree? In fact, you're out there treading water in the ocean. You can't do that forever. We could say that's a lost condition. Lost at sea is what they call that, right? Y'all follow me? We could say that is a bad condition. That's lost at sea. You're in trouble, right? Because eventually you're going down, right? That's a bad condition. But let's say another ship comes by and sees you and comes up close to you and they throw a life preserver and it splashes in the water 3 or 4 feet away from you. And you see that life preserver sitting there. Now what? That's your salvation, correct? Yes. Right? What if you sit there and you're treading water and you're looking at it and say, I love that life preserver. I love to hear about the life preserver. Whew, I just love hearing about that life preserver. Granny told me about the life preserver. Grandma, I love to hear her sing songs about the life preserver. I love to hear the preacher talk about the life preserver. I love that life preserver. You can say that all day long, but you're still going down unless you take hold of it, right? Unless you receive it. Unless you grab it. Can I say that's a little bit rough? Grab it. See, if you want what Jesus is offering, you got to grab it. You got to take it. You got to receive it. And the way you grab it, the way you take it, the way you receive it is by believing in it, by deliberately putting your faith in it. That's what he says here. He that believeth on him that sent me, who hears my word. He that hears my word and believes. Now, see what you need to do is when you hear the word of Jesus, say, I believe it. I choose to believe it. You see, you can choose to believe. Some people think believing, some people think faith is like a seizure that comes on you whether you want to or not. Pray for me that I'll believe. No, you just got to choose to believe. Either you do or you don't. You just got to, see what I try to get people, just say, I choose to believe it. It's in the Bible, I choose to believe it. Jesus died for my sins. He's paid the price for my sins, so I believe my sins are paid for. I believe that's good enough for me. I accept Him. I receive Him. I take hold of Jesus. I receive Him and everything He did for me. Now notice what it says about people who believe. That's what it means to believe. To rely on Him. I read something interesting. There's a Bible I have in my office called the Phillips Translation. It's in modern language and I like it real well. The man Phillips, J.B. Phillips, that translated that translation, he wrote a little book of insights that he gained from translating the Bible. And one thing he wrote that I really liked that stuck with me about believing. He said, what it means in the Bible to believe is for a person to transfer their confidence from themselves to Jesus. In other words, I'm not trusting in me anymore. Now I'm trusting in Him as it relates to God. I'm not trusting in me that God will accept me because I'm good enough. I'm trusting in Jesus. All my faith, all my confidence, all my reliance is on Him instead of on me. That's what it means. Now, Jesus says for a person that does that, notice, he that heareth my word and believeth on Him that sent me hath. That means you have it. You hath everlasting, He hath everlasting life. Do you know what that is? That is that life that we were raised up with Jesus with, that resurrection life, He has everlasting life. That's a new life. That's a different life than you had before. He imparts to you a new life, resurrection, everlasting life. Notice this, and shall not come into condemnation. That word condemnation is a Greek word krisis, which could be translated judgment or condemnation. You could say the judgment of condemnation. Now, why did Jesus include this? Why did He tell you that? Well, evidently He thinks that we need to know that. Evidently He wants you to know that. Evidently He wants you to factor into your thinking that He has accepted you and He's never going to throw you out again. That He has received you. If you've received Him, He's received you, and you're never going to come into a judgment of condemnation. Everybody hear that? Evidently He wants us to feel that sense of security and confidence that comes with acceptance. See, I think when children grow up, if they know they're accepted, if they know they're loved, they grow up more secure and happier and better than if they grow up insecure and doubting whether they're loved or not. And I think God is at least as smart as human parents. I think He wants us to know that we're secure. What happens when we grow up in Christ, secure in the knowledge that He's never going to throw us out? We've got room to grow. We've got room to keep coming back to Him and never leave. See, what happens if you're insecure and you think He's going to throw you out the first time you make a mistake? First time you make a mistake, you're going to separate yourself a little bit from God. Well, I don't feel like, I don't want to associate with those Christians anymore. I feel a little bit guilty. I don't want to pray. I don't want to read the Bible. I feel a little bit guilty. He doesn't want you to do that. Listen, don't you think God knows you're going to make mistakes? Don't you think He's smart enough to know that? He doesn't want you to run away from Him. He wants you to run to Him. Amen. He knows you better than you know yourself. He wants you to run to Him. Okay, He hath everlasting life. He shall not come into the condemnation, judgment of condemnation. He wants you to know that. He has never got any condemnation for you. He's not mad at you. He's not upset. Even if you blow it in every way that you can think of, He still is not mad at you. Because He has got what you need. He's got the answer. He's the only one that can fix it for you. Is that okay? Please take these things to heart. Now, the last part is, notice this. See the last words? Is passed from death to life. Now, I don't know about you. That sounds like a resurrection, doesn't it? Amen. Passed from death to life. A person who's a believer has passed from death to life. So on an Easter Sunday, when we're celebrating the death and resurrection of Jesus, think about what it means to you. He died with everything wrong with you to put it out of the picture so that you can have a relationship with God with nothing in between. He's taken away everything that you ever did wrong. And not only that, He's imparted to you a new life. And as a believer, you have passed from death to life. Let's all stand up today. Now, what do we do with information like this? Well, here's what I do. I say, I choose to believe it. It's in the Bible, it must be true. And I choose, just like when we took those communion elements and we received them and took them in, when you hear this information, just imagine yourself taking it in and eating it up and drinking it down, saying, I believe it, it's true for me. He died with my sins, so my sins are paid for.
Jesus!